Subscribe to the channel and hear even more exciting stories. My best friend ghosted me after my accident, then wanted me to pay for her wedding. Throw RA because my friends know I lurk here, and honestly, I can barely believe this is my life. For context, my best friend, let's call her Jess, and I were basically inseparable since college. You know those soul sister types who finish each other's sentences, send ugly Snapchats at 3 a.m., and have a decade's worth of inside jokes? That was us. Jess is the kind of person who lights up every room. Loud, opinionated, sometimes a little too self-absorbed, but always the first to organize a birthday dinner or drag you out when you're spiraling. Looking back, maybe there were warning signs. She was always the main character in every story, and I got used to being her loyal sidekick. She'd forget my birthday if it clashed with a trip, vent endlessly about her drama, but vanish when I needed advice. Still, I excused it. Nobody's perfect, right? And when life was good, Jess made everything feel like a movie montage. Then, last summer, everything changed. I was in a pretty bad car accident. Not a walk-it-off with a few bruises kind of thing. A hospital for 2 weeks, physical therapy for months, work calls you daily situation. The kind of thing you think only happens to other people until you wake up with tubes in your arms and a doctor explaining how lucky you are. My parents were incredible. My boyfriend was a rock. My friends, most of them, anyway, rallied, sending food and memes, visiting when they could. But Jess? Silence. No calls, no texts, not even a hey, heard you almost died. That sucks. At first, I thought maybe she didn't know. But mutual friends assured me she did. She'd even asked for updates in the group chat, and then just disappeared. I tried to shrug it off, telling myself she was busy, overwhelmed, bad with hospitals. But the longer the silence dragged on, the more it felt like a gut punch I couldn't explain. I started to wonder, was our friendship ever really what I thought it was? The early days after my accident were a blur of painkillers, physio, and awkward sponge baths. But the worst pain wasn't physical, it was the silence from Jess. Days turned into weeks. I waited for her to pop up at my door with iced coffee and trashy magazines, to call just to complain about her job or her latest Tinder disaster. Nothing. It was so out of character it made me panic. Maybe I did something wrong? Was she mad at me? Had I offended her somehow? Mutual friends tiptoed around the subject. Jess is probably just overwhelmed. She's never been great with hospitals. Maybe she doesn't know what to say. At first, I ate those excuses like comfort food, desperate for any logic that didn't feel like outright abandonment. I even texted Jess, just a simple, "Hey, hope you're okay. Miss you." The message sat on read for 3 days before she replied, "Glad you're feeling better. Let's catch up soon, XX." That XX was a knife. No actual offer to visit, no questions about my recovery, just emoji band-aids for a hemorrhage. Recovery dragged. Learning to walk again, losing work gigs, my social life shrinking to whoever could handle hospital vibes, and my emotional mess. Jess never showed. I went from denial to anger to a kind of numb heartbreak. This was the girl who'd made me promise to be her maid of honor someday. The one I told my secrets to, even the ugly ones. Apparently, that wasn't enough to warrant a hospital visit or even a half-hearted phone call. Months passed. My hair grew back, my scars faded, but the friendship-shaped hole just got bigger. I started noticing all the times Jess had made everything about her. Her big wins, her bigger crises. All the little ways she'd dismissed my feelings with a joke or an eye roll. Was she ever really there for me? Or was I just background noise in the movie of her life? By the time I was back at work, our catch-up never happened. Her Instagram was full of boozy brunches and #blessed selfies. The truth settled in my chest like a stone. My best friend had ghosted me at the lowest point in my life, and now I didn't know if I'd ever see her again. Just as I was starting to accept that Jess was gone for good, she reappeared in my life like a jump-scare villain in a bad Netflix drama. It started with a text out of nowhere. "OMG, I miss you. We need to talk. So much has happened." Not a single word about my accident, my recovery, or the fact that she'd vanished during the hardest months of my life. It was as if we'd just paused the friendship for a season and could resume whenever she wanted. I ignored the text for a day, just to see how it felt. Spoiler, it felt like a power I'd never had before. But curiosity, and a tiny flicker of old loyalty, one out. I replied with a neutral, "Hey Jess, been a while." She responded instantly, and suddenly my phone was blowing up with voice notes, memes, and 100, "I have to tell you something huge," teasers. We met for coffee at her favorite overpriced spot, the same place where we'd once planned hypothetical double weddings. She looked the same, hair perfect, nails done, new ring glinting on her finger. She launched straight into her news. She was engaged. It was the love story of the century, and wedding planning was a full-time job. She gushed about flower walls, cake tastings, and her dream honeymoon. I could barely get a word in. Finally, she paused and gave me a look I recognized from every group project we ever did. She wanted something. Sure enough, out it came. "So here's the thing. Our budget's kind of tight, and I really want you there as my maid of honor. But it would mean the world if you could help out. Maybe cover part of the bachelorette or chip in for the dress. You know I'd do it for you." My brain froze. She hadn't asked about my health. She hadn't apologized for disappearing. But here she was, expecting me to play best friend again and write a check for the privilege. For a second, I wondered if I was hallucinating. Was this some kind of test? Was I really just a line item on her wedding spreadsheet? The disbelief was quickly burning into something a lot angrier. I left that coffee date shell-shocked, replaying Jess's words in my head like a bad song on repeat. Was this real? Was she really asking for money after ghosting me through my lowest point? Every logical part of me screamed, cut her off. But years of habit, the people-pleaser, the ride-or-die bestie, made me question myself. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe she really was overwhelmed. Maybe she deserved another chance. But as soon as I got home, the emotional tidal wave hit. The anger was sharp and hot. I wanted to text her everything I'd held back for months. But then came the sadness, the ache for what our friendship used to be. Was it my fault? Was I expecting too much? That voice in my head, the one trained by a decade of Jess's self-centered drama, started whispering, "Don't make a scene. Don't be petty." I vented to my boyfriend, who just shook his head. "She wasn't there when you needed her. Why do you owe her anything now?" Rational, direct. But guilt kept gnawing at me. I actually started calculating if I could swing the bachelorette party cost, just to keep the peace. Old habits die hard. Jess, meanwhile, doubled down. She sent me links to affordable, maid-of-honor dresses, tagged me in posts about lavish bridal showers, even texted, "You're still coming, right? I need my best girl." No mention of the accident, the hospital, or my recovery. Just expectations, as if nothing had happened. Finally, I decided to test her. I wrote, "Honestly, I'm still paying off hospital bills and PT. Not sure I can swing anything big right now." Her reply, "Oh, well, maybe you can ask your boyfriend to help. Or just skip some appointments for a bit." This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I felt something break inside me. It wasn't just her absence during my crisis. It was her total inability to even see me. The friendship, if you could still call it that, was suddenly lit up with every red flag I'd ever ignored. I stewed for days, bouncing between anger and heartbreak. Every time I picked up my phone to respond, my hands shook. What did I even say to someone who could vanish when I needed her most, then reappear with her hand out? My boyfriend urged me to block her and move on, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed closure. I needed Jess to hear how deeply she'd hurt me, even if it didn't change a thing. So I called her. No texts, no emoji-filled LOL buffer, just raw, real conversation. She answered in her usual whirlwind. "Hey, bestie, are you ready to go dress shopping this weekend?" I almost laughed at the absurdity. Instead, I took a breath and let it out. "Jess, do you even realize you disappeared after my accident? I needed you. You weren't there. And now you're asking for money for your wedding, like none of that even happened." The silence on her end was deafening. Then came the classic Jess deflection. "I know, babe, but you know how I get with hospitals. I just can't handle that stuff. And I figured you'd reach out if you really needed me." She started to sniffle, trying to play the victim. "It's been such a stressful year for me too, you know. I thought you'd understand." For the first time in our friendship, I didn't back down. I told her exactly how abandoned I'd felt, how her absence had hurt more than the injuries, and how asking me for money now felt like a slap in the face. She tried to pivot. "So I'm a bad person for wanting my best friend at my wedding? For needing help?" I stood my ground, voice shaking but steady. "No, Jess. You're not a bad person for having a wedding. You are a bad friend for what you did. I can't pretend it's all okay just so you can have your perfect day." She hung up on me. I stared at my phone, heart racing, and realized I finally said everything I'd been swallowing for years. The relief was sharp, mixed with grief, but also, strangely, freedom. After our call, I expected a torrent of angry texts or dramatic social media posts from Jess. Instead, total silence. For days, I checked my phone compulsively, bracing for a backlash. When nothing came, I cycled through every emotion. Guilt, sadness, flashes of anger, even a weird sense of mourning for the friendship I'd lost. But as the days stretched on, relief crept in, soft but persistent. I wasn't constantly checking my messages, afraid of missing the next guilt trip or demand. I wasn't rehearsing excuses for why I couldn't be at bridal fittings or why I couldn't Venmo over cash. The quiet felt foreign at first, then more and more like peace. Mutual friends started reaching out. Some asked if I was going to the wedding. A couple had heard Jess was going through a lot, and maybe I should be the bigger person. I told the truth, for once. Jess wasn't there for me when I needed her most. I can't pretend nothing happened just because it's inconvenient. Some people fell away after that, loyal to Jess, or maybe just uncomfortable with conflict. But a few friends surprised me, sending messages like, "I always wondered why you did all the work in that friendship, and you deserve better." It was both validating and sad, realizing I wasn't the only one who'd noticed the imbalance. I started focusing on my own healing. Physical therapy, old hobbies, movie nights with my boyfriend and family. Little things that slowly rebuilt my confidence and sense of self. The more time passed, the more I understood that letting Jess go wasn't just about this one betrayal. It was about finally choosing myself after years of playing supporting actress in someone else's show. Was it lonely sometimes? Absolutely. But for the first time in years, my life felt like it belonged to me. With Jess out of my life, I decided to make it official. I wasn't going to her wedding. When the invitation finally arrived, a blush pink envelope with gold foil and her signature exclamation points, I didn't even hesitate. I RSVP'd no, added a polite, "wishing you the best," and left it at that. No explanation, no apologies. For once, I didn't feel the need to justify my absence. A couple mutual friends texted, trying to convince me to reconsider. "It's a big moment. She'll regret not having you there," one wrote. I just replied, "I need to do what's right for me." It felt strange to put my own needs first, but also empowering. I blocked Jess on social media and muted her wedding hashtag. I deleted old messages, put away photos from our wild college nights, and let myself grieve, not just the friendship, but the version of myself that thought I had to earn someone's loyalty by paying for it. The more distance I put between us, the clearer everything became. My self-worth wasn't tied to someone else's approval. Instead, I doubled down on the people who actually showed up for me. My boyfriend, my parents, a handful of friends who proved themselves over and over. We started new traditions, Sunday breakfasts, board game nights, spontaneous weekend trips. Each little ritual felt like reclaiming a piece of my life. I threw myself into recovery, too. Finishing PT, signing up for a painting class I'd always been too busy for, taking actual rest days without guilt. My world didn't shrink when Jess left. It expanded in ways I never expected. For the first time in ages, I looked in the mirror and saw someone strong, not just someone surviving. The wound Jess left was still there, but it was finally starting to heal. And every day, it hurt a little less. The day of Jess's wedding came and went like any other Saturday, except I didn't feel dread, regret, or the old urge to check my phone for drama. Instead, I woke up, had pancakes with my boyfriend, and went for a long walk in the park. I let myself feel a little sad for the friendship that once was, but mostly, I felt grateful that I wasn't about to play the role of maid of honor in a story where I was always the extra, never the lead. That evening, I got a few updates through the grapevine. Pictures on mutual friends' stories, a group chat buzzing with wedding drama. Apparently the cake melted, and someone's uncle got drunk and hit on a bridesmaid. For a split second, I wondered what Jess was telling people about my absence. Was I the bad friend who bailed? Probably, but I didn't feel the need to defend myself. For once, I was at peace with my side of the story. Instead of giving in to FOMO or nostalgia, I treated myself to a cozy night in. Face mask, trashy TV, my favorite takeout. It felt like a quiet celebration, a soft rebellion against the years I spent prioritizing Jess's happiness over my own well-being. I realized that missing her wedding wasn't the end of anything important. It was the beginning of something I'd put off for far too long, showing up for myself. That night, before bed, I scrolled through old photos of us, laughed at some memories, and then deleted them for good. Not out of spite, but as a final act of closure. Jess's big day would always be just that. Her day, not mine. And I was finally okay with letting it and her go. I slept better that night than I had in months. Maybe that's what real healing feels like. Choosing your own peace, even when it means walking away. In the weeks after the wedding, something remarkable happened. My life got lighter. The heaviness of always worrying about Jess's feelings, about keeping up, about earning my spot in her orbit, it just faded. I started hearing from people I hadn't seen in years. Some reached out to say they missed me, others just wanted to reconnect. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd quietly slipped out of Jess's gravitational pull. I spent more time with the people who mattered, movie nights with my boyfriend, walks with my mom, coffee dates with friends who genuinely listened. New friendships blossomed, built on mutual care instead of convenience or obligation. For the first time, I found myself saying no without guilt and yes to things that actually brought me joy. There were days when the loss still stung, when a memory or a photo would catch me off guard. But each time, I reminded myself why I walked away. I wasn't bitter. I just refused to make space in my life for anyone who couldn't show up when it really counted. Physical recovery continued too. I finished my last PT session and celebrated with a goofy dance in my living room, grinning until my cheeks hurt. I realized how much I'd grown, not just stronger, but wiser about what I deserved from others and from myself. Looking back, I didn't just lose a friend. I gained a clearer sense of self. I learned that real friendship isn't about grand gestures or Instagram likes. It's about being there when it matters, no strings attached. That truth hurt, but it also set me free. My world felt bigger, brighter, and more authentic. And best of all, I knew I'd never let myself be someone's backup character again. Looking back, it's wild how much energy I spent making excuses for someone who couldn't even text me when I needed her most. If you're reading this and wondering whether you're too sensitive or asking too much from a friend, hear me, you're not. The right people don't disappear when things get hard, and they definitely don't reappear only to ask for money. I wish I'd seen the red flags sooner. The friendship that felt so special was mostly me accepting the bare minimum and mistaking it for loyalty. Real friends show up, even if they're awkward or don't have the perfect words. Real friends ask how you are before they ask for a favor. I learned the hard way that boundaries aren't just for keeping out toxic people. They're for keeping yourself safe from your own tendency to overgive. If I could give advice to anyone in my shoes, it's this. Don't let anyone guilt you into shrinking yourself. Don't pay to be included, don't beg to be chosen, and don't let nostalgia rewrite history. Value the people who show up, not just the ones who make the most noise. Letting go can hurt, but sometimes it's the bravest, kindest thing you'll ever do for yourself. My life isn't perfect, but it's real. I've got a smaller, stronger circle and a new sense of what I deserve, from friends, from myself, from everyone. I survived the accident, and I survived losing Jess. Both left scars, but both taught me how to heal. If you're struggling with a friend like this, I hope my story gives you the courage to put yourself first. You're worth that, at the very least.